Smoke coiled beneath the rafters of the castle blacksmithy, thick with the tang of pitch oil and ground obsidian. Jon Snow stood at the anvil, stripped to his linen shirt, arms blackened by soot, hair pasted to his brow. A dozen shards of dragonglass glimmered in a shallow iron pan beside him, each one no larger than a child's palm, yet sharp enough to flense flesh from bone. Gendry Baratheon, no bastard now, yet a smith still, worked the bellows, driving white fire over the shards until they wept molten tears. "Hara," Jon muttered. Gendry's shoulders flexed. Sparks leapt like fireflies. "Any hotter and the anvil itself will run." Jon only nodded, eyes fixed on the glow. Dragonglass was fickle, neither true glass nor metal, but something older, volcanic fury frozen by gods long dead. Maesters prattled that it could not be forged. Yet Valyrians had once shaped it into blades, and the tales did not call Valyrians liars. If flame-born sorcerers could do it, so could a bastard of Winterfell armed with stubborn northern will. He touched the wolf-head pommel of Longclaw lying on the bench beside him, felt the cold steel hum beneath leather-wrapped fingers. The sword was watchful, as though it sensed he meant to dress himself not in mail or plate, but in night itself. "Draw," Jon said. Gendry slid tongs beneath a strip of half-liquid obsidian, and set it upon the anvil's horn. Jon's hammer struck once, twice, again gentle as winter rain. Each tap coaxed the molten strip broader until it lay thin as a raven's feather, but hardening by the heartbeat. It shattered at the edges, spraying jeweled black splinters across the dirt floor. Most people would curse. Jon smiled. Even fragments could kill a wight, and he meant to waste nothing. By the time the watch bell tolled midnight, a small pile of curved plates lay upon the bench. Breastpieces shaped like overlapping leaves, pauldron shards sharp as direwolf fangs, vambraces glistening with starry flecks. Jon ran a gloved thumb across one plate's face. It shimmered violet beneath torchlight, drinks in every ember until the color vanished into bottomless night. "That's only the belly," Gendry said, wiping sweat from his brow. "You've armor for a child. For a beginning. Dragonglass cracks. Steel dents. Bone breaks. Nothing lasts forever." The smith snorted. "Words of a lord." "Of a crow," Jon corrected. "We mend with what the world gives." "And thou?" Dawn limped over the wall as pink and frail as a firstborn calf. Even summer dawns felt thin here. More memory than warmth. Jon stood atop the cold beasts carved from black ice, giant sculpted ravens that served as watchposts along the curtain walk, and let the wind scour hammer sting from his knuckles. Below, the courtyard stirred. Apprentices dousing fires, ravens croaking for breakfast, dolorous Ed muttering blasphemies about soup made from turnip rinds. The wall never changed, and yet everything had. No White Walkers marched now. Their powers were broken with the fall of the Night King. Yet the wounds remained. Half the north laid bare, wildlings clinging to thawing ground beyond shattered barricades. Lords whose harvests failed because the sun feared the long night still. King Bran the Broken ruled from the Red Keep, king of the 6 kingdoms, not 7, and sent quills and coin northward. But parchment could not plow hard soil, and gold could not warm a child's bones. Jon's duty had once been to guard realms of men. He had kept that vow until realm and loyalty both turned to smoke. Now his duty was to mend themselves, Northmen, free folk, and black brothers alike. To keep them alive he would do worse than break old oaths. He would forge new ones, hammered in dragonglass. Footsteps shushed over frost-rimmed planks. Samwell Tarly arrived, wrapped in a bearskin cloak several sizes too large. Little Sam toddled behind, chasing a patch of sun, while Gilly descended slower, one hand on her belly grown round again. "I missed supper," Jon said. "You missed too," Sam answered, pushing spectacles up his nose. "But you gained these." He held a parchment scroll. Its wax seal bore 3 20th-century-old scratches, the mark of the last Hearth Massmiths. Jon unrolled it. A crude sketch showed overlapping plates and straps, measured in finger widths and nail heights. "Dragonglass lamellar," Jon whistled. "A style used by the Shadowbinders of Ashai." Sam said, voice quickening with gawky delight. Built to flex without breaking. Each plate is small enough to remain whole, even if the wearer moves. You stitch them to boiled leather, reinforce the seams with thin bronze, and the shards share the strain. John traced the sigils inked along the margins, ancient Illyrian glyphs. This is no wildling scrawl. A maester in Old Town found it buried in dust from the doom itself. He owed me a favor. Sam cleared his throat. I owe him 3 favors now. John clasped Sam's shoulder. Your debt is the realm's coin. He meant it. Knowledge bought survival when coin could not. And shall. Days bled into weeks. Furnace heat painted the yard in shimmering waves until even ravens held their tongues. Brothers carried wagon loads of obsidian from the wharf at Eastwatch, or dug from Dragonstone's volcanic womb under Queen Daenerys' first command. Shunned after her fall. Men cursed the weight, but none refused. Each shard they lifted was a stave in the shield, guarding their children, their memories, their broken world. John labored until his muscles screamed. Gendry, pip, and satin-shaped plates as thin as a fingernail, each quenched in brine and scrubbed with pumice until edges gleamed. Sam stitched at night by candlelight, squinting through lenses polished with spit, weaving black thread in patterns older than the freehold. One dawn, Tormund Giantsbane walked through the gate leading a train of mammoths draped in furs. The wildling's beard was frosted crimson and white, and his laughter shook icicles from the lintel. Little crow melts stone, Tormund roared. Show me armor for a giant. John grinned. First I craft armor for crows. Then hurry. Giants grow impatient. Together, they laid the first suit across a trestle table. Breastleaf overlapping belly plate. Rib-curved shards flaring like raven wings. Gorget mottled with flecks of ghost gray crystal. The entire harness weighed no more than boiled leather. Yet when Gendry struck it with a smith's hammer, the Dragonglass rang like frozen stars, and the hammer's edge chipped. John slid into the harness. Buckles snapped. The plates hugged him close as a silent vow. When he rolled his shoulders, the armor whispered. Not clank nor squeal, only the hush of wind across snowdrifts. He drew Longclaw. The sword's Valyrian steel kissed the Dragonglass plates and skated away, leaving not a mark. A crow clad in night, Tormund murmured, awe softening his thunder. Old gods bless. John tugged his glove. They have little choice. Men? Hein? A northern sun crept west when John summoned the watch atop the Kingway, the long snowy road once meant to feed the wall's castles. Men lined the ridge, raven-black cloaks mingled with wildling furs, northern helms alongside crow-winged sigils. Sansa Stark stood beneath a stark banner that whipped like a hunting wolf, her hair a flare of autumn fire. To her right, Lady Val bore the spear of the free folk. To her left, Mage Mormont glowered over a brace of captured ice-spear pelts. Houses small and great sent their scions, all bound by hunger for security and by memories carved into graves. John strode before them wearing the Dragonglass armor. Sky clouds mirrored on the plates as bruised purple, blood red, twilight blue. He spoke not as Lord Commander, nor King, nor Prince of Dragonstone, but as a bastard who had seen the world end and refused to lie down in its ashes. We were told the long night was over, he began, voice carrying like a horn across stone. We were told peace would follow, yet war lingers. Debts, famine, vulture kings who smell weakness from Old Town to the sisters. Southern crowns turn on each other while the North tends its dead. If we wait for riders from King's Landing bearing promises, we will starve between empty words. He unsheathed Longclaw, the steel, a gleaming river. The wall kept death out for 8,000 years. Now its stones crumble. Let us be the wall. Let us be the shield that guards not just the realms of men, but the land that birthed us, ice and pine, hill and barrow, from Maiden's Pool to Shadow Tower. We are crows and wolves, wildlings and Greenland's folk. But snowberries are bones the same. Murmurs rippled like waves. Then a voice rang out. Lyanna Mormont, fierce child lord, standing atop a barrel. "Will you be our king?" Jon felt the weight of the armor, cool and steady. "No." Shock swept the ridge. He raised his blade. "I will be your brother." The Night's Watch began as that brotherhood. But brotherhood is not sworn to kneel. It is sworn to stand together. "We will hold the North for ourselves, as free folk hold the endless frost, as the children once held the green sea. Call us Watch, call us Kingdom, call us Free North. The name is less than the deed." Gendry lifted a spear haft where a dragonglass blade shone midnight. Torment roared again. Lady Val jabbed skyward. Sansa nodded once, tears bright but unshed. Jon lowered Longclaw. "The Night's Watch is dead. Long live the night." "Dan so. Elwan." Ravens carried the proclamation south and east. Some lords scoffed. Others counted the cost of sending armies over mountain passes, still blizzard-choked. Queen Shireen of Dragonstone, widow of an unbroken prince, penned a letter sealed with green wax. "I Dragonglass is a dragon's gift. May the frozen night bear you kindly. Go." In Old Town, the Archmaesters debated whether obsidian armor violated natural law. Citadel parchment traveled slow. Need outpaced doctrine. At White Harbor, Lord Wyman manderly weighed chambers full of grain against chests empty of coin, and remembered how Winterfell once burned. In the Dreadfort, Alice Karstark sharpened her father's sword across her thigh, and smiled at the whisper of flayed enemies that drifted beneath her battlements. But tales outran ravens. Peasants fleeing bandits spoke of a black knight whose armor swallowed dawn. Wildlings whispered of Crowwolf. Half man, half silence, who forged stars from dragon tears. Children played games in muddy streets, tapping sticks on buckets and chanting, "Break the wall, build the night." Now, winter still slept light, yet snow returned one evening beneath Hunter's moon. Jon led a ranging beyond the shivering forest, dragonglass armor blotting torchlight as he moved between pines. With him rode Jorah Mormont in mailed sleeves, Val the Spear Maiden, and Ghost Padding, silent as guilt. They came upon a village charred to ashes, free folk huts blackened. Skeleton rafters twisted skyward. 3 dead lay in the snow, throats slit. Tracks led south. Hoof prints of shod horses, marks of plate-shod feet. Southron sellswards hired by harvest-rich Lannister cousins, no doubt, stealing timber and fur. Jon crouched by a hearthstone cracked in half. A child's doll lay nearby, its stuffed belly torn open. He touched the soot, still warm. "They ride hard," Jorah said. "We'll not catch them before dawn." Jon shook his head. "They think the watch is shackled to its wall. Let them think so." He whistled low. Ghost loped into darkness. Above, midnight ravens took flight, wings inked against a bruised sky. When dawn bled pale across the foothills, the sellswards sighted riders on the ridge. Black cloaks fluttering, helmets crowned with shards like frozen feathers. They jeered at first, until crossbow bolts glanced from silent plates and shattered to splinters mid-air. The Night's Watch descended like a blizzard. No battle cries, only the hiss of dragonglass cutting steel, the crunch of snow beneath dying men. Jon's armor drank morning light. Each stroke of Longclaw left ribbons of crimson steaming on the snow's crust. After, he stood beneath a pine heavy with frost, and counted the living. 30 brothers, 31 free folk, 1 direwolf licking blood from its jowls. They had lost 2. The sellswards lost all. Jorah sheathed his blade. "A king's victory. A brother's debt," Jon answered. He gathered the stolen furs, the sacks of grain, the crying orphan wrapped in cougar hides. Each would return northward. Each proof that the night no longer waited for doom to come. It carried dawn on its shoulders. Weeks later, Winterfell's courtyard filled with stamping hooves and crackling fires. Jon knelt upon stone while Sansa circled him, the direwolf banner clutched tight. Hundreds watched, old lords wary and eager youths aflame with legend. Sam recited histories of border kings forgotten by Targaryen scrolls. Tormund gnawed a leg of roast goat. Sansa stopped before Jon. "You would decline a crown," she said softly. "Yet a people cannot march behind an echo." Jon rose, Dragonglass shimmering. "Then let them march behind the Night's Watch reborn." Sansa smiled a stark smile. Secret. Sad. Unbending. Then hear the terms, brother. Winterfell stands with the Watch. Its steel, its grain, its sons and daughters. But it bows to no southern throne, nor does it claim a crown above its neighbor. North and Night are one realm, guarded by two walls. The stones of Winterfell, and the black armor of Dragonglass. Damn? Jon nodded. So sworn. Maesters would puzzle at such an arrangement. Two thrones and none. One realm beneath twin wards. But among gathered folk, a cheer rose like storm tide. In it, Jon heard the shattering of old chains, of vassalage to distant kings, of walls that imprisoned those sworn to defend. The North was free, and the Night stood watch, not in shadow, but in command. And now, snow fell thicker with each fortnight. Supply wagons rolled from White Harbor along newly guarded roads. Masons sealed gaps in the wall, with obsidian-laced mortar that glowed violet in lantern light. Free folk children herded goats within shadow of castles their grandfathers once cursed. Lordlings drilled with spears tipped in black glass. Wildling hunters taught green boys how to read wind scent. And at Castle Black, in the glow of forges whose flames no longer died at dawn, Jon tested the second suit of Dragonglass armor. This crafted for Jorah, and another for Val, and another sized for a Mormont child with fire in her eyes. The armory grew row by row, each harness a sliver of night waiting to be worn by dawn-bright hearts. Somewhere beyond, Southrons plotted. Citadels whispered. Old gods closed stone eyes. But the watchfires of the North burned high, mirrored in obsidian plates, until every spark became a star held captive in midnight glass. And Jon Snow, once a bastard with a broken oath, walked among those stars clad in shards of ancient fury, Longclaw at his hip, ghost padding silent beside him, ready to greet whatever new darkness thought to claim the North's hard-won dawn. Ka. Squel. Wind bellowed over the ramparts of Winterfell like a restless direwolf, rattling banners and tugging at the fresh-set tarps that covered the castle's new obsidian stockpiles. Jon Snow paced the battlements, ghost padding beside him, white fur haloed by drifting snowflakes. The dawn was pewter gray, too thin to warm stone, but the courtyard below thrummed with life. Smith hammers on anvils, the whir of a lathe shaping dragonglass arrowheads, the deep cadence of Manderley oxen hauling grain into vaulted cellars newly cleared of dust from the Bolton years. Everywhere he looked, the fortress of his childhood transformed. Black glass shining where rusted iron once hung. Men drilling in half-helmets streaked midnight. Wildling women stitching rings of obsidian into leather hauberks, while northern girls looked on, copying the knots with cold stiff fingers. He paused at the eastern tower where Maester Wolkan, returned at Sansa's request, gray-haired and humbled, leaned over a ledge with a spyglass. Below, a column of riders in battered mail wound up the King's Road, standards snapping. 3 entwined trout of the Tullys, the twin towers of the Freys, struck through by a crimson X, and the new-minted sigil of the Night Reborn. Black field, white direwolf surmounted by a star of dragonglass. At their head rode Ser Edmure Tully, face gaunt but eyes sharp. Beside Lady Bran of Tarth, steel-clad and towering. They had answered Sansa's summons within a fortnight. Word traveled swift when the North no longer knelt, and swifter still when a Stark called banners, in the name of a brother who spurned a crown. Jon descended the steps, boots crunching frost. Ghost ghosted ahead through archways, scattering chickens. The gates creaked wide, revealing the column haloed by dawnlight. Ser Edmure swung from his saddle with a groan. Old wounds from Lannister dungeons still stiff. Then knelt on stiff knees. Brienne knelt beside him, mailed fists resting on her sword's pommel. Rise, John said, bidding them with upturned palm. Too many good men and women have bent knee to tyrants. Here we stand, shoulder to shoulder. Ednir straightened, cheeks florid from cold and emotion. Word reached River Run of northern defiance. My uncle Bryndon fought for such freedom, and died on these stones. The trident stands with Winterfell. Brienne's blue eyes flicked to the dragonglass pauldrons that quilted Joan's shoulders. I swore to guard the Stark girls. If you are their shield, then I am yours. John clasped her forearm, feeling the strength that once held the hound at bay. You honor me. His gaze swept the riders behind, knights of lesser houses, crossbowmen from the riverlands, a scattering of farmers armed with boar spears. You honor the living north. Rest, warm yourselves. Tonight we share meat and tales, and tomorrow we speak of what shape this realm must take. And now, the great hall smelled of pine smoke, fresh-hewn spruce and sizzling pork fat. Fires blazed in 4 hearths, but tapestry still fluttered in the drafts that slipped through arrow slits. Around the trestle table sat an unlikely congress. Mage and Lyanna Mormont with their bear-pelt cloaks. Lord Wyman Manderley in sable doublet stretched taut by feasting. Hallis Hornwood, pale and hawk-eyed. Val, flame-haired in weirwood bead necklace. Tormund Giantsbane in sealskin crusted with frost. On the opposite side, Ednir Tully drank hot cider while Brienne picked at beans, her long hair catching ember light like beaten copper. Samwell Tarly sat near the head, fingers ink-stained, parchment unfurled, quill poised to capture every word for posterity. John took the high back seat only long enough to rise again. Titles weigh heavier than steel, he began, voice carrying through rafters blackened by Bolton's fires. Let us put them aside. We sit not as lords and ladies, but as stewards of those who cannot sit here. The crofters hunched over failing crops, the orphans freezing beyond last river, the wildling babes born beneath Ragdan bone tents. Their needs forge our path. Sansa set her goblet down. Winterfell offers its stores and forges, but grain alone will not fend off Southron swords. Casterly Rock eyes the neck. The Eyrie speaks of unpaid tolls. The Reach hungers for our timber. They will test us because they believe we stand alone. Then Zwynander. Meg Mormont slammed a fist on the table so plates jumped. Let 'em test. Bear Island stands. We've skinned worse than lion cubs. Ednir leaned forward. River Run's levees break each spring, but we can spare men. Archers who shoot from mist and mud. Folding river and snow together creates a wall no army can breach. Brienne spoke for the first time. Walls fail when hearts fail. Oaths must bind more surely than stone. Now, then let us forge a new oath, Sam interjected, surprising himself. One sworn to the north and the night together, a pact of mutual defense. No castles ceded, no lord made vassal. Each house pledges steel, grain, and knowledge. In return, the Night's Watch trains their sons and daughters to fight in shadow and dawn alike. Call it the Pact of Wolfswood. Murmurs spread. John watched faces, wary, hopeful, conflicted, then drew Longclaw and laid it across his palms. This sword once swore service to Winterfell, then to the Wall, then to no one. It serves wielders who remember why blades exist. Not for crowns, not for vaults, but for living blood. If this hall agrees, we seal the pact tomorrow at first light. Then see. Val rose. But striking stone. Free folk bow to no man, Crowwolf, but we raise spears for kin. If your pact makes lowborn and wild one clan, then the spearwives of the Frost will guard its borders. Tormund whooped approval. Manderley chuckled like a kettle on boil. Even cautious Hornwood gave a curt nod. Sansa lifted a hand and quiet fell. Then the North accepts the Pact of Wolfswood, she declared. We rise as one realm of many fires, none brighter, none dimmer. Outside, wind keened along the crenellations, as though some ancient spirit heard and bore witness. Then, 3 days hence, a raven croaked over the battlements, bearing parchment bound in green silk. the royal sigil of King's Landing, a three-eyed raven crowned by a seven-pointed star. John read the missive by torchlight in the solar while Edison Tollitt, now dubbed Warden of the Wall, waited with arms folded. Kabi decree of His Grace, Bran the Broken, King of the Six Kingdoms. The letter began. White's Watch is granted autonomy in perpetuity north of the Long Lake. However, rumor persists of your secessionist ambitions. The realm cannot endure another war. The Crown invites a delegation to King's Landing under banner of truce to discuss formal boundaries and trade. The signature below bore Master Tyrion Lannister's cunning hand. John exhaled. Tyrion knows words cost less than spears. Dolores A.D. sniffed. He also knows spears make fine quills dipped in blood. If we ride south, we risk a trap. If we refuse, John countered, we confirm every fear of rebellion. He traced Tyrion's looping script. Memories flickered. Tyrion freeing him from dungeon chains, confessing his own crimes, then turning north warding off whites. Guilt and gratitude weighed like storm clouds. But autonomy was no longer his alone to barter. I will go, John decided, with a small retinue. Sansa rules here in my stead. You guard the wall, and if I fall, the pact stands regardless. Ed's mouth twisted. Your life is a poor thing to wager, Snow. It was never mine. And she. The journey south began at first, melt of midwinter thaw. John, clad in his Dragonglass breastplate now covered by plain wool cloak, rode beside Sam, Brienne, and Valdy. Ghost loped ahead, white against black pine. Behind trailed a dozen riders sworn to watch and river both. When they crossed Moat Cailin, its fallen stone giants glittering with frost, scouts spied banners on southern tower. The golden rose of Highgarden, newly re-raised by Lord Willis Tyrell, who wrangled crown neutrality like a master gardener coaxing vines. They passed unchallenged, though Tyrell archers tracked them like hawks from the parapets. At dusk near Maidenpool, they found the bridge collapsed, planks charred. Villagers claimed Lannister cell sails had torched it to slow northern raiders rumored to descend. Ravens twisted fact, faster than wings could beat. Jones' party diverted west across sodden meadows, adding 2 days. Each hamlet they passed showed famine's teeth. Stores emptied by Queen Cersei's long winter taxes years before, now worsened by storms and broken trade. Children watched from half-collapsed barns as the riders passed, eyes large as storm lanterns. Val gave out saltfish. Sam left packets of hardy barley seed. The realm bleeds. Sam whispered one night beside the cookfire, face etched by orange glow. If the crown cannot feed them, desperation will. John fed the fire a splinter of dragonglass fallen from his armor. Obsidian did not burn, but it warmed the air with faint violet flicker. Then our pact must reach past neck and trident, he said. Not to rule, but to show there is another way. Val snorted, gnawing rabbit. Feed a Southron a loaf, and hell demand a crown. Teach him to hunt, and hell demand your bow. Then we teach him to hunt Age-Wethwas, John replied. And shall. King's Landing appeared on the horizon under bruised dawn, sprawl of half-rebuilt toppled domes and soot-blackened towers. The dragon pit still gaped like a wound among hills, and the Red Keep's towers bore new crenellations shaped like reaching roots, a design rumored commissioned by Bran to honor Weirwood memory. Yet smoke rose from flea-bottom cookfires, and ships swarmed Blackwater Bay bearing sparrow banners of merchant guilds newly tolerated by the council. Gold cloaks met them at the King's Gate, escorting through narrow streets where small folk paused mid-step at sight of ghost pale wolf and the knight-armored rider holding its leash. Murmurs rippled. Some spat Kingslayer for Daenerys, others whispered, White Wolf returned. Yet most simply watched, hollow-eyed, hope and cynicism mingling. In the throne room, shafts of anodized light fell through stained glass depicting the children of the forest gifting dragonglass daggers to first men. Tyrion waited beside wooden ramp depressions built for Bran's wheeled chair. Sir Davos Seaworth stood guard, hair silvered since Jon last saw him. Bran himself sat upon the high seat, blank eyes pale as morning sky. Crows perched on beams overhead. Silent. Jon knelt, because courtesy cost nothing. Though Brienne only bowed at the waist, Val saluted with spear butt. Sam wobbled half curtsy. Bran's voice was soft. "Rise, brother." Tyrion's smile cut weary lines across his cheeks. An impressive suit. One can almost smell dragon fire. Jon's tone was even. Forged of earth, not flame. "All things born of Valyria share one cradle," Tyrion responded. "Come. Tell his grace of your pact." Jon laid out the wolfswood oath. Grain for training. Steel for wall. Knowledge for peace. He told of sellsword raids stilled. Wildlings settled without blood. River banners hungry for stability. Children fed. He made no threat, no boast. He spoke as man, noting the weather, yet winds carried portent. Tyrion listened, fingers steepled. Davos nodded at mention of leaky granaries. Bran sat motionless, yet ravens overhead shifted restlessly. When Jon finished, silence swallowed the throne room. Then Bran spoke. "Long ago, the Watch sheltered men of every crown. Now crowns multiply, and Watch remains singular. Your pact reflects the world rather than binds it. I see no treason, Jon. Only truth." His blind eyes turned to Tyrion. "Draw the boundaries." Tyrion exhaled relief. "Very good. Trade exemptions for grain crossing the neck. Mutual defense clause requiring knight auxiliaries to assist crown ports against piracy. River tolls waived northbound. Southbound taxed at half." He glanced at Jon. "Compromises bloom like desert flowers once you spill a little blood on the sand." Val smirked. "Careful, imp. In the north, flowers bite. So does sand," Davos muttered. Bran raised a hand. "One more matter. The Citadel petitions to study your Dragonglass forges." Jon tensed. "They would pry secrets absent cost." "Knowledge withheld is arrow unloosed," Bran countered. "Share a broken shaft, keep the head." A ghost of a smile haunted his lips. "Send them scraps, not core." Tyrion coughed. "A masterstroke of half-truth." He offered parchment. "Sign, Lord Snow. Or do we style you Brother Snow? Perhaps simply Jon of the Night." Jon set quill to vellum. "Let the chronicles decide." His signature sprawled across the pact below Tyrion's, and above Bran's wax seal. As ink dried, ravens overhead took flight, swirling in a dark spiral toward the open windows. They stayed 7 days. Tyrion arranged tours of granaries, where Sam traded barley knowledge for dusty tomes on Valyrian ceramics. Brienne sparred gold-cloak captains to teach northern close-in shield work. Val negotiated weather-hard furs for cheap reach linen to aid newborns. Ghost patrolled the Godswood and frightened Septons who mistook him for summer snow demon. On the 8th dawn, Jon visited the crypts of the Red Keep alone. Down spiral steps smelling of chalk and tear water, he found a tomb newly carved. Lyanna Stark. Stone figure clutching winter rose. Her eyes, rendered in gray marble, gazed eternally north. Jon knelt, thoughts heavy. In the quiet he felt a presence like distant thunder. His father's faith, his mother's song, Bran's visions coiling though time. He whispered a vow to guard the living and the dead, then turned and climbed toward daylight. Tyrion awaited at the top. "You bear weight enough to crack a mountain," he said softly. "Remember, even mountains rest." Jon met his gaze. "Mountains endure because they empty themselves of stone before they shatter." Tyrion chuckled. "Then empty a little here." He pressed a slim flask of arbor white into Jon's palm. "For the road, Brother Snow." And end. The journey home took them through Harrenhal, where blackened towers loomed like charred bones. Edmure insisted upon detour to oversee river-run garrison rotations. Jon agreed, curious to measure river militias against north drills. The ruined castle's courtyard bustled with makeshift smithies, but iron was scarce. Dragonglass arrowheads were already prized. Jon traded a crate for 2 barge loads of barley. In the Godswood, he met the Cranagman Howland Reed. gray now, but keen-eyed, who carried stories older than stone. Reed spoke of glass candles lighting in the night, of echoes of stepstone smoke, of rumors that Korth alchemists sought to fuse flesh and glass into living weapons. John listened, filed it away. At the crossing, the innkeep's daughter whispered that Lannister levies drilled just west, near Fairmarket. John dispatched ravens north. By the time they reached the neck, Mormont spear companies and free folk skirmishers had redeployed to Greywater Watch. War still stalked shadows, but war found fewer doors unbarred. And now, spring teased the air when Winterfell's gray towers came into view, banners snapping bright as blood-fresh hearts. John felt a fist unclench behind his ribs. In the bailey, children whirled wooden spears in drill. Behind them, older boys and girls practiced archery with obsidian-tipped shafts. Maester apprentices waiting to retrieve arrows and catalog fractures. Gendry strode from the smithy, face grimed, waving a curved dragonglass scimitar fit for horseback slashes. Sansa met John at the God's Wood. Snow kissed the moss in pale patches. She wore a cloak of midnight wool, trimmed with fox white, and her smile was as rare as winter sunlight. "The pact holds," she said before he spoke. "Manderley grain has already eased famine in Maidenpool. River hordes of fish fill Hornwood stores, and look." She gestured to the heart tree. On its red bark, someone had carved a fresh rune. A direwolf intertwined with a crow, surrounded by 7-pointed star broken in half. Small folk call it the Starless Banner. They paint it on shutters to keep Lannister raiders away. "Nine?" John touched the carving, sap sticky like congealed blood. Symbols spread faster than armies. "And last longer," she replied. "Arya sends word from Braavos. Ships whisper of free ports ready to trade obsidian for spices. Our world widens." John inhaled pine-wet air. "But storms gather. The Reach may march come harvest." Sansa stepped closer. "Then the North will weather them, clad in night." "You're not alone anymore, John." For the first time in years, he felt that to be truly, unshakably true. "Enderro." Summer's first breath arrived the day the Watch tested the Dragonglass lamellar in true battle. Reports came of a renewed sellsword host, 500 strong. Lion banners obscured but coin bright, marching through the ruins of Deepwood Motte toward the coast, seizing timber. John donned the full suit, breastleaf, wolf-spine backplates, shard-edged gauntlets, and led 200 Watch brothers, 100 free folk, and 50 Mormont shield maidens through the Wolfswood. They harried at dusk like shadows born of dusk itself. Obsidian arrows punched through chain links, fracturing inward with glass teeth that stuck and shattered deeper. Dragonglass cuirasses turned lances aside. Plates cracked but held, splintering outward only after deflecting mortal thrust. John rode at the fore on a rangy piebald gifted by Val, long-claw hewing helms, each swing paired with Ghost's silent flank-slung attack. Within an hour the sellsword host broke, many surrendering, many fleeing into dark underbrush, only to be run down by wildling trackers. They captured chests of Reach-minted gold. John distributed half to the widows of towns burned south of the Neck, half to blacksmith stations forging new plates. He sent the surviving mercenaries home with their commander's severed helm spiked on a dragonglass shard. A silent message carried by rumor more swiftly than ravens. D North bleeds no more. Months folded into a tapestry of first harvest. Barley rippled like gold tide across fields south of the wall. Goats grazed in shadow of ice. Manderley merchants shipped smoked cod to Gulltown. Brienne opened a school of arms at the Queen's Crown ruins, where river and hill youths drilled side by side. Meanwhile, Sam's tower at Castle Black flickered lantern light deep into night as he and Maester Wolken copied Ashai scrolls onto fresh parchment, testing glaze techniques to coat dragonglass so fractures healed in fire. One twilight John rode the curtain walk with Ghost and looked west to Crimson Horizon. From there, the world melted into haze. He felt a pang. A pull toward lands beyond Night's End, where giants once thundered, where the heart of winter still slept. The Night King had fallen. but legend whispered of deeper ice. He wondered if peace would ever be more than season. Sansa joined him, hair braided with streaks of white fox fur. "You look beyond walls again." "Walls within this time," he admitted. "Each victory births a fear that I grow what I swore to uproot." "Dragonglass cracks," she said, repeating his own words. "So we temper it. With love, with memory." She rested a hand on his forearm, feeling the cold pulse of black glass beneath wool. "You will ride out again, I know, but leave roots behind, Jon. Even ravens return to roost." He managed a small smile. "I'll try." Ghost howled, low and lingering. Far below, torches lit along the parapet as watch change sounded. Night's first stars glittered overhead, faint but resolute. They shimmered upon Jon's armor, replica of the sky, a tapestry of midnight flecked by worlds yet unseen. And months later, on the morning of the first full thaw, a skinny boy galloped through the Wintertown gate astride a shaggy Garin. Breath billowed like dragon steam as he flung himself off the saddle and ran for the hall, waving a tattered banner of crimson sunburst, the sigil of House Dane. Inside, counselors gathered around Jon and Sansa as the lad recited in ragged gasps. Princes pass a flame. Dornish outriders speak of a golden company splinter. Sir Harry Strickland's heirs, they march under black banners to seize the Boneway. Reach lords hire them, promise Highgarden's gold for northern heads. Tears cut paths through dust on his cheeks. They mean to flay your banners, for harvest. Jon dismissed the boy to Maester Walken's care, and paced the chamber where rushlight smoked. His mind sketched maps, Boneway choke points, Dornish mountain passes, river bottlenecks. Conflict churched, unstoppable as tide. Yet Meg Mormont smiled shark grim when she heard. "Southrons think obsidian melts in summer sun," she muttered. "Let's bake 'em a lesson." Tormund slapped her shoulder. "A bit of blood keeps the pact warm." Sam's brows knitted. "Our Dragonglass stores will strain if we equip new levies." Gendry cracked knuckles. "Then we find more sources. Dragonstow's mines run deep still. Let's sail." Sansa looked to Jon. "Do we wait behind walls, or carry night to those who fear it?" Jon felt the weight of armor, of hearts bound, of dawn rides to come. He drew long claws slowly, the steel reflecting torch flare. "We ride," he said, "but not as conquerors. As messengers, we show the South what a realm united by purpose, not power, can be." He sheathed the blade. "And we leave doors open behind us, for those weary of crowns." As plans unfurled, supply wagons, raven routes, pincer paths through the Fever River, Jon felt the mountain lighten inside. Not because war beckoned, but because purpose endured. Dragonglass cracked. Hearts healed. Night walked beside dawn, equal partners. Before dawn he slipped from his chamber, ghost trotting, and crossed the icy yard to the forges. In the glow of embers he lifted a newly cast shard, no bigger than a dagger yet as dark as moonless water. He held it to hearthlight and watched colors ripple inside. Violet, indigo, deepest blue, worlds within worlds. He thought of Lyanna's marble eyes, of Ned's silent resolve, of Ygritte's laughter in snow. All their stories lived in the glass. "You will shield them," he whispered, unsure whether he spoke to glass or ghosts. He set the shard in a pouch, closed fingers around the wolf head pommel of his sword, and walked into chill air brilliant with stars. In the east, horizon bled pale rose. Somewhere far beyond sight, enemy armies gathered. But between them and the north stood the wall of night. No stone, no ice, but men and women wearing shards of the earth's own fire, hearts beating as one. And at their head walked a bastard once meant to vanish into legend, now forging legend anew with every breath. The dawn wind carried a scent of pine smoke and promise. Jon Snow inhaled, exhaled, and began the long ride south, each hoofbeat echoing the pact's still fresh oath: guard the living wherever they walk, under any sky. And then, above, the first rays of sunlight struck his armor. The Dragonglass did not blaze. It drank the light, swallowed it utterly, leaving only a subtle gleam, as if the night itself had learned to carry the dawn in secret, keeping it safe until the world proved worthy to see it again. Okay. PG-SQL. Hail spears the ramparts of Moat Cailin, rattling on fresh-laid slate, yet torches burn steady within the watchtowers where northern sentries keep vigil. Beyond the gatehouse, black water pools in the marsh flats, reflecting wavering lantern glow. Jon Snow rides through sluicing rain beneath a patched canvas cloak, the hood cowled low. Beside him Val guides her shaggy Garen over slick causeways, eyes narrowed against the storm. Behind stretch 300 riders, watch brothers and free folk mixed, each clad in coats of mail painted dark with pitch, or lamellar sewn from dragonglass crescents that glitter when lightning strobes. They've marched 4 days from Winterfell, answering cries from Barrowton where scouts saw black banners on the horizon. The portcullis creaks open, hauled by chains that drip rust like blood. Inside the central yard, Maester Wolkan, now posted here as warden scribe, awaits beneath a dripping awning. His lantern throws long shadows across bodies laid out upon boards. 5 villagers, throats slit, eyes open to the falling rain. Jon kneels by a youth no older than 12, fingers brushing damp hair from a waxen brow. They found the boy at the Weeping Willow Ford. Wolkan murmurs, voice hoarse, carved with the sigils of House Drace, mercenaries, no true vassals. Jon rises. How long since they crossed into the neck? 2 nights passed. Columns of pikes and crossbow, near 500 by the tracks. The maester glances over his ledger. Numbers rise with each hamlet bled. Jon stares south, where lightning forks in bruised clouds. Then we ride in darkness, and answer at dawn. Gendry strides forward, hammer slung across broad shoulders. Road'll gutter torches. Smiths carry arms, not eyes. Give us daylight, we'll cleave neat. Jon shakes his head. They strike villages under cloak of night. We meet them in the hours they trust most. He turns to Val. Choose 20 shadow runners. Flank east through the fens, circle their rear. Val's grin is a knife flash. The mists favor wolves. She melts into rain with her chosen. Jon surveys the ranks. Jorah Mormont astride a destrier. Brienne armored bright, despite the soot wash. Tormund twirling a double-bladed axe like a toy. Children of the forest could hide in their number, and none would see. He raises his gauntlet, knuckles of dragonglass dripping violet water. Steel yourselves. We ride for Barrowton. Endo. The neck is a labyrinth of water-mired track and whispering fog. Horses stumble knee-deep through black mud, hooves sucking free with each stride. Rain slackens to drizzle, yet mist thickens, coiling around lantern light until every face becomes a blur. Jon signals to kill the lamps. Darkness swallows them, but the dragonglass on his pauldrons drinks moon glints. Shapes behind follow the silent shine. Ghost leads 20 lengths ahead, paws whispering through sodden reeds. Occasionally his pale shape pauses, muzzle to air, then vanishes again. Jon rides by instinct, mapping memories of youth hunts with Robb and Theon, measuring distance by heartbeats. Wet air tastes of peat and iron. Near midnight, the column halts at a rise overlooking a shallow basin. Torches below flicker around wagons arrayed in circle. Sellsword standards, black sunburst bisected by crimson fang, slap in sluggish wind. Jon counts pike rows, notes gaps where watchmen shirk. Rain hisses on cook fires. Somewhere, a lute plucks off key. He dismounts into bracken, motioning Brienne and Jorah. Left flank, draw riders into the bog. Tormund Gendry take the center when their pikes shift. He glances east, where mist churns over fen. Val will cut supply wagons. When fire takes hold, we charge. Naishi. They disperse, ghosts among ghosts. Minutes creep. Jon kneels in reeds, long claw unsheathed, blade hooded with dark cloth, to hide starlight gleam. Ghost crouches beside, breath steaming. A distant owl hoots once, twice. The free folk signal. Flames leap at the camp's far edge as tar-soaked bundles erupt. Shouts rise. Silhouettes scattering. John whistles shrill. Watch archers unleash. Obsidian-tipped shafts arc like black rain, punching through leather and lamellar both. Screens bleed into wet night. John vaults over a fallen log. Sprinting downslope. Armored brothers thunder behind. Longclaw sings free of cloth. First foe. A crossbowman fumbling quarrel. Dies with throat split. John shoulders through smoke, parries a pike thrust. Drives pommel into helm and splits visor. The dragonglass plates on his arms deflect iron with shrill cracks. Shards spidering but holding. Across the rack, Brienne wields Oathkeeper two-handed, carving a wedge through spearmen. Tormund's axe cleaves timber shield boards, laughing louder than thunder. Gendry smashes kneecaps with Smith's hammer, following with she-axe to belly. Behind lines, Val's raiders torch oat sacks, exploding amber sparks skyward. Horses rear, trampling their own. John sights the enemy captain, a tall man in gilded half-plate, rallying toward a supply cart. He bull rushes, ghost flanking. The captain swings a flamberge. John ducks, slashes across greave, severs tendon. Man staggers. Deerwolf lunges, takes face. Blood spatters red-black across slick canvas. Panic breaks ranks. Pikes splinter under retreating heels. Jorah and Mormont shield maidens press, driving mercenaries into marsh, where they sink thigh-deep, easy prey for arrow and blade. Within an hour, only moans remain. Rain halts. Dawn tinges east clouds pink. John surveys Charnel Field. Fire's gutter. Survivors kneel bound, a dozen at most. He calls them forward, cutthroats, cell spears, a reach boy no older than 16, eyes wide with horror. Who paid your coin? John asks. Silence. Then the boy speaks, voice cracking. Lady Rohan Weber. She said lions would send gold once the north burned. Tears cut tracks through grime. We thought Barrington weak, my lord. Thought the watch was far. John considers. The watch is wherever night falls. He gestures. These prisoners toil restoring the burned villages. Any who resist, Ed will see to the wall. Bound men swallow fear. Enderwandy. By dusk their force reaches Barrington. Smoke circling its timber palisade like mourning cloth. Lady B. Barbary Dustin awaits at the gate, sable cloak stained by ash. She bows stiffly. The boy Lord of Bolton offered coin for my head. But your ravens outtraced his horses. You have my thanks, Lord Snow, though I name no king above me. They. John dismounts. We claim no crowns, lady, only blood debt. He surveys blackened cottages, shorn wheat fields. We'll leave masons, carpenters, seed. She quirks a brow. And what crave you in trade? Stone cutters, John replies. The wall must mend, and your Stoneham no quarried granite better than northern shale. She laughs, bitter as juniper. Fair barter. She extends a gauntlet. They clasp forearms, pact sealed. That night, under canvas strung among charred beams, John meets his captains. Wet maps sprawl on a makeshift table. Brienne traces roads toward Acorn Water. The Golden Company splinter sets camp near Stony Sept. If Rohan Weber funds them, House Lannister's paw in the Reach is deeper than rumor. Sam, ink-stained and bleary from tending wounded, shakes his head. Yet letters from King's Landing speak of Tyrell overseers watching Casterly Rock. If lions scheme, they do so behind silken curtains. Jorah grunts. Our victory at the neck rattles cages. We must strike before claws unsheath. Tormund gulps mead. South grows warmer, Crow. Our skins sweat in this air. Then, Jon studies the map-dotted D. Heat slows armor. Dragonglass fares well. He taps Stony Sept. We ride again. Small force. Strike the captain's tent. Shatter command. He glances at Brienne. You'll lead the shield wall north of the Mander, faint toward Bitterbridge. Draw watchers who track us. She nods. Plans cement, until cressets burn low. As council disperses, Sam lingers. The more we ride, the thinner Winterfell's watch becomes. Rumor swirls the Ironborn gather fleets. A three-front war will bleed us hollow. Jon rubs weary eyes. That's why I send Gendry and Val north tomorrow. Ghost goes with them. The direwolf lifts head at his name. Jon kneels, fingers curling into white fur. Hold the wall, guard Sansa. If ravens fail, Ghost will carry north what words cannot. Wolf and man lock eyes. Understanding passes beyond speech. Dawn 2 days later. Joan's spearhead of 150 rides from Barrowton, banners rolled, shields dulled with soot. They cross the Green Fork at a ford patrolled by Frey rebels, who bow them onward. 7 days of hard march carry them through rolling hillocks, where apple orchards scent the breeze. Flowers bloom where snow once rained. The North's breath runs long. On the 8th night, they bivouac, below Oldstone's crumbling tower. Moonlight filters through leaf-veined remains of sepulchre arches. Jorah recounts ballad of Trystane and Elenay. The men listen quiet, thoughts drifting to lost loves frozen by winter's bite. Jon stands apart at a mossy barrow. He presses palm against weathered stone, feeling pulse of ancient dead. He wonders, will future minstrels sing of crows clad in nightglass? Or will wine scour even their names? His reverie breaks at soft crunch of leaves. Brienne approaches, helm under arm. You bear ghosts heavier than plate. Jon half smiles. My armor cracks, but not enough to let them free. She sets helm on ground. In Tarth, we say a knight's doubts are the rivets that keep honor fast. Without them, armor falls apart. She lifts a palm. Dawn's first gleam paints her gorget pale rose. You hold the realm together, Jon. But you must allow others to bear weight. He meets her gaze. Tomorrow, you lead the vanguard. Strike swift, I'll flank south. As you command, Lord Snow. Yet she adds softly, I command you in turn. Survive. He nods, throat tight. And she. They reach Stony Sept by noon next day. Hidden in a hollow ridge where poplars screen sight. The mercenary host occupies farmland west of town. Tents striped crimson and black. Pikes bristling like wheat. Jon counts 4 trebuchets aimed south, likely poised to bombard the town should lords refuse levy. Civilians stream toward distant woods carrying what goods they can. Brienne readies shield wall northwest, concealed behind hyrics. Jorah leads a small cavalry knot east to sever escape road. Jon crouches with 20 watchers in an alder copse to the south. He draws Longclaw, blade muffled beneath oil-black cloth. At first trumpet of muster horns, Brienne's line surges, shields interlocking. Mercenary outriders shriek alarm. Crossbow bolts whistle. Dragonglass shields sprout shards but do not fracture. Brienne batters first spear unit aside, Oathkeeper cleaving hafts. Behind, Mormont maidens hurl obsidian javelins, punching through mail. Jon's red hawk whistle pierces din. He and his shadows charge across tilled rows. Longclaw hacks tent ropes. Canvas collapses on officers scrambling into cuirasses. Jon slips beneath sagging awning. Finds the paymaster clutching coffer. Steel pommel cracks skull. Ghost, though leagues north, might have felt Jon's growl. Outside, trebuchets pivot, but Jorah's riders crash their lines. Cavalry sabers flashing. Firepots meant for town smash upon siege frames, igniting pitch. Flames roar. Smoke bellows black. Jon advances toward command pavilion where black banners whip. Gain. He intercepts a burly Braavosi captain wielding hooked bill. They circle. Mud-sucking boots. Bill whips. Jon catches shaft on left vambrace, angling Dragonglass to deflect. He ripostes. Sweeping Longclaw low. Hamstrings parted. The Braavosi falls, eyes bulging. Jon yanks blade free. Steps inside pavilion. There stands Rohan Weber herself, No gown of red silk tonight, but brigandine studded bronze, hair braided tight. She clutches a dagger carved from Mirish glass, its edge quivering. Behind her lies a war chest brimming with Lannister-stamped gold. "A wolf arrives," he says, voice breathless yet scornful. "I expected lions would handle kennel work." Jon levels sword. Lions hide behind spiders now. She laughs once, bleak. "Do what you will, bastard. Slay me, and the reach will rise. Gold blossoms in every field." Jon shakes head. Gold cannot root in burnt earth. He slices chest's lock. Coins spill. He knocks pavilion pole. Banner falls. Tents burn outside. Screams chorus. He turns. "Yield, and your folk may return to farms." Rohan spits. "We're already dead." The South just doesn't know it yet. She slashes. Glass dagger darts. Jon parries. Steel shard snapping blade. Edge slices her wrist. Blood flows. She stares at Crimson Slick. Then at him. This blood buys nothing. She thrusts again. Jon disarms, twists arm, forces dagger drop. He binds her wrists. Outside, the mercenary line folds. Some flee south. Jorah's riders chase only enough to break will, then recall horn. Captives gather under Mormont watch. Brienne emerges coated in soot, helm plume singed, but triumphant. Jon drags Rohanna before captives. No more raids. You march west to Tumbleton, disband at Ferry. Any blade raised north again answers to night's judgment. He gestures. Gendry smashes cart wheels, scattering gold into mud. "Pay yourselves. Feed the hungry. Leave." Soldiers kneel, not in fealty, but in fear of glass-clad ghosts. Gain. After the rout, Jon leads his band to Stony Sept. Town elders greet them with bread and salt. Narrow-hipped children stare at night-glass armor with awe. Jon orders grain warehouses opened. Spoils seized from mercenary wagons. To feed households first. He posts watchmen to oversee ration fairness. Barrels of tar become payment for local smiths, who will craft arrows in months ahead. That eve, within the Sept of Maribald, Jon holds council. Candles flicker beneath cracked frescoes. Sam pores over scrolls from Maesters of Highgarden. Reports of Lannister agents stirring revolt. Rumors of Ironborn raids along the Bight. Tormund sprawls on pew, curses Southrun wine. Big folk fight for dirt. In the frost, at least when we kill, we take fur to keep warm. Brienne stitches a cut along her bicep. War seldom chooses its ground. We must choose our line. Jon paces before shattered altar. "We hold here until refugees move north. Then we ride home." He taps his wrist guard. The pact stands, defensive, not conquest. "If lions wish war, they cross our borders first." Sam tilts head. Yet Dornish messengers carry word of talks between Casterly Rock and Sunspear. A southern pincer could flank the neck. A hush. Jorah rumbles. Dorne is far. Jon sighs. Distance thins blood, not greed. He steps outside into midnight hush. Stars spangle velvety sky. He walks among sleeping hearths, listens to distant lute, the lilt of mothers humming children to rest. He thinks of Winterfell's hearth tree, of Sansa's steady counsel, of Arya's shadow dancing across foreign seas. Responsibility settles upon shoulders like frost. Behind footsteps approach. Lady Rohan, hands unbound yet flanked by 2 watch spears. She bows head. "You spared me, though I offered none." "Why?" Jon studies hair. Fire glow from a torch limns her face. Sharp and proud yet weary. "Because dead foes teach nothing." She exhales. "I thought northerners born of ice. I see now you're forged of something older." She lifts palm. "Release me west, I will speak to lords of the Mander. They think crowns alone command. I will show them night that bled for strangers." "Now." Jon considers. Sees no lie. He nods. "8 dawn you go, escorted to Tumbleton. Break word and Glass will find you." She smiles thinly. Let us hope gold is softer than glass. She leaves. Enderau. 3 weeks pass. Jon's retinue shepherds 400 refugees north beyond the neck. Farmers, artisans, orphan children. At Moat Kalen Stoneham, of House Dustin labor, carving granite blocks. The refugees barter skills for lodging in nearby camps. Sam organizes a census. Quills scratching dawn to dusk. Brienne trains able-bodied with wooden pikes, shaping them into ward companies for Barrows Fields. Ravens bring tidings. Lady Rohan kept promise. Letters from House Peak and Florent speak of decrying sellsword raids, sending wagons of oats to King's Landing for famine relief. A scrawled margin note from Tyrion reads, "E.H.I. Evan gold bends, when heated sufficiently." Yet darker parchment arrives on black wings. Smeared wax bearing Kraken's sigil. Sansa writes, "Iron-born fleets raid the rills. Rooks rest aflame. Ashot Greyjoy boasts to hold widows watch by fortnight. Aeshi urges swift return. Jon convenes council. Gendry, returned from wall duty, spreads rough chart of northern coast. Iron-born sail longships swift as gull. Deepwater port scarce between Deepwood and Skagos. We must meet at sea or cede shore. Meg Mormont shakes grey-streaked mane. Bear Island long repelled Kraken. We know the currents. Give me 20 galleys, I'll gut them." Brienne asks, "Can Dragonglass breach hulls?" Indri nods. "Heated shards fused to iron tips will bore through oak like butter. But we need pitch kilns along shore." Jon turns to Sam. "How many vessels lie at White Harbor?" 13, Lord. 7 merchants, 6 warhulks half-crewed. Lord Wyman readies them. Jon grips edge of table. "We split forces. Brienne leads foot north across the Dreadfort Road to relieve Widow's watch. Mage sails from Bear Island to harry Kraken flank. I ride to White Harbor to arm fleet with glass-tipped rams." Jorah protests. "You stretch lines. One blow felled your namesake king at the Trident." Jon meets his eyes, weary yet unyielding. "One blow felled the wall's gate as well, but men rebuilt." He clasps Jorah's shoulder. "Ride with Brienne. Keep our sisters safe." Plans ink. At dawn, armies part ways. Jon, Gendry, Sam, and 100 riders set southeast toward White Harbor's silver walls. Endo. The journey passes through flowering dale where spring runs wild. Refugee carts clog roads, yet banners of the starless pact grant passage. Jon halts often to share stores, mend wheels. Each act cements legend. Children begin carving little wolves from river stones, inlaying shards of black glass for eyes. They place them at crossroads as ward tokens. White Harbor rises gleaming where the white knife meets the bite, marble walls reflecting turquoise tide. Lord Wyman greets them on Seagate Pier, flesh slimmed from ration years yet eyes bright. He leads them through shipyards where hulls rise like whale ribs, caulkers singing. Jon climbs gangplank of the AEC Iron, flagship under Manderley command. Gendry demonstrates glass-tipped ram, a wedge of oak plated in dragonglass mosaic, edges razor-fine. Wyman whistles. Tuck. One strike will open a longship like crab shell. Sam organizes scribes, drafting sailing orders. Harbor warehouses disgorge casks of pitch and iron nails. Night-fletched arrows stack deck crates. 3 days later, fleet of 9 warhulks and 5 refitted merchants weigh anchor. Jon stands on prow of IC Lion clad in new sea armor. Dragonglass scales lacquered with fish oil to resist salt. Ghost, refusing land confinement, remains north. Jon feels absence keen, yet knows he hunts along Broken Branch. Fleet rides tides under gull cry. Out of harbor, wind freshens. Sails snap. Gendry mans ballista deck. Sam huddles near tiller, stomach lurching. On third morning, fog banks in. Gray shapes emerge, ironborn longships, sails black with golden kraken. War drums boom. Captain's horns bray. Jon draws Longclaw, its Valyrian steel singing. Deck crew ignite pots of wildfire-laced pitch. Green tongues lick spooned ladles. Rams lower. Ironborn arrow storm hisses. Dragonglass lamellar deflects many. Yet crewmen fall. Escalating surges. Ram punching longship flank. Glass shards pierce oak. Splinter inward. Water floods. John leaps across gap, lands amid raiders. Blades clash. He parries a hand axe, lops arm, kicks foe into bubbling sea. Nearby, the river's Stony Sept's hull, ablaze with wildfire. Emerald plumes roar skyward, reflecting in Joan's armor like aurora. Ironborn shriek. Charred. But more kraken sails appear, 15, 20. Far greater than scouts reckoned. Joan's fleet forms crescent, backs to shoal. Battle seesaws midday. Boardings turn decks to slick carnage. Gendry wields hammer like thunder god. Sam, shaking, still loses crossbow quarrels from behind mast, each bolt tipped obsidian. Two longships break line, beaching onto shoals behind Escalating. Disgorging reavers who scramble up Gull Cliff path, descending toward White Harbor hinterlands. John sees. Heart clenching. If they flank to port, city burns. He turns to helmsman. Run us aground. Lord shall break her keel. So will the realm if we fail. Now. Rudder swings. Escalating drives onto shoal, keel grinding sand. John rallies, 24, leaps to shallow surf. They charge cliff path, climbing slick shale amid arrow rain. Ironborn reach ridge first, axes rise. John crashes into them, armor flaring violet where sun glints. Longclaw reaps. Fight condenses to narrow ledge where only two abreast can stand. Gendry shoulder to shoulder with John, hammer and sword, as one. Waves boom below. After bloody minutes, last reaver tumbles. Screams swallowed by surf. John wipes blade. Below, sea battle still rages. Yet ironborn ships scatter, sails ragged, some burning, others sinking from glassed holes. On horizon bare island galleys appear. Meg's reinforcements, horns bellowing Ursine calls. Kraken retreats. Evening. Escalating is towed free of shoal by tide and bear galleys, hull groaning but intact. Decks strewn with dead. Pyres burn on sand. John walks among wounded, binds gashes, whispers thanks. He lifts Sam from plank where clerics tend arrows slice upon his shoulder. Sam shakily laughs. Turns out seasickness keeps you too empty to lose more stomach in battle. John claps his friend. You fought true. Gendry appears limping, hair plastered. Rams need resharpening but worked. He glances at horizon. Ironborn learned fear. On Gaza's north, where sunset paints clouds blood crimson. They'll learn memory too. Dull. Back at White Harbor, victory bells peal. Yet news from land chills celebration. Brienne's column reached Widow's Watch but found fortress razed, Ironborn gone, hostages taken north along coast. Yora scouts track them towards Cape Kraken. Worse, Raven from Winterfell warns of Bolton loyalists stirring. Ramsay's forgotten bastards rally Sellswards in secret. John gathers council in Manderley Great Hall, built of pale stone. Torchlight flickers off salt-crusted shields lining walls. Sansa appears in glass sphere recorded by Maester Lens, her voice projected by Sam's cunning lens tube. Ride to last hearth, to quell Karstark descent. Hold the seas, brother. The war spreads like wildfire across Tinder realm. Aye. In moonlit quiet, John walks White Harbor's Godswood, a small walled garden with lone weirwood, transplanted centuries prior. Bleached bark gleams. Red leaves rustle. He kneels. Old gods guide me. I swore to guard living, not chase death skirts. He bows head. Wind whispers through leaves like distant children's voices. Questions swirl. Can the pact survive endless fronts? How long before Dragonglass stores deplete? When will the South accept peace without fear? Steps approach. Meg Mormont stands. sea spray still on furs. She plants axe in grass. Wolves may roam far, she says, but the pack returns. We fought on rivers, seas, marsh. Soon we fight in hearts. John rises. Hearts break easier than wood. Aye, and men slower. But men they do, if steel sheathes. She taps his breastplate. You must know when to sheath sword. He exhales. After we rescue captives, she bares teeth in what passes for smile. After that, and he. As soon? At dawn, White Harbor yards bustle with re-rigging. Manderley's nephew Wireless loads grain sacks for widows' refugees. Dragonglass smiths replate ramspite. Sam consults a sea chart scribbled with maester runes. Val runs messages from rangers newly arrived telling of Karstark muster at Last River. John stands aboard Escalating, gazing north. He thinks of Bran glimpsing through ravens. Wonders if brother watches now. He feels weight of myriad threads he cannot control. Yet he still holds the thread he forged. The pact, woven from dragonglass and dawn. He raises Longclaw, point-catching sunrise. Crew hush. Night walks beside us, he calls. We do not seek glory, only dawn for those living in shadow. We ride waves, we tread snow. We burn not for war but for hearths yet cold. By this blade, by this pact, we will bring them home. Cheers answer. Northern roars. Free folk ululations. Manderly chants in the old tongue of the merman. Sails unfurl. Fleet heels northward. Foam. Shearing bows. As the ships vanish beyond headland, a raven lifts from Godswood bow. Black wings beating toward sky. Its eyes glint red as dragonglass shards. Far below, John stands resolute at prow. Unaware that bird bears message written not in ink but in time. The long night never truly ends. It only learns new shapes. Guard the living, crow wolf, for dawn is but one side of twilight. And Arander. Sea wind snatches feathers. World rolls onward, forged anew each heartbeat, yet always tempered by night. Jon Snow breathes salt air, feels weight of blade and oath, and sails into battles yet unwritten, where dragonglass will crack, steel will ring, and hearts will decide in whose light the north will stand, beneath crown of stars, or shroud of endless dark. Sql. Sleeting rain clawed across the deck of the Icy Lion as she knifed northward, her patched mainsail bellied by a wicked easterly that reeked of kelp and distant thunder. Jon Snow braced himself against the rail, the twins of ice spray and night wind needling his cheeks raw. Beyond the prow, the sea boiled pewter gray, whitecaps snapping like wolves' jaws. Here and there, the bows of Mage Mormont's Urson galleys burst through the swells, their figureheads painted with fresh tar, so they glimmered like wet obsidian. Lanterns swung at every masthead, but most were hooded. One misplaced flicker, and the ironborn scouts would mark them for prey. Gendry hauled another dragonglass-tipped ram into place on a rolling dolly, muscles straining beneath salt-stained leather. "Storm's rising," he shouted over the roar of gale and rigging. "If it breaks before we reach Cape Kraken, we'll lose the tide." John tugged his cloak closer, the fabric already leaden with brine. "Then we meet it head-on. Pitch fires want light in this rain. Best chance to draw close before their deck cats can cast grapnels." Sam, leaning green-faced against a barrel lashed to the mizzen, managed a nod. The wound at his shoulder had scabbed, but each crash of waves sent new pain stabbing through the bandages. Still, he clutched a sodden map case tight, the parchment within lined with tide tables. Greyjoy's sigil placement, shoal depths measured in Glover fathoms. Winds veering north-northwest, he managed between swallows. If the squall holds 2 hours more, we can ride the chop in under the cliffs, use them for cover. John clapped him on the back, careful of the stitches. "You've a sailor's instincts now, Samuel." "I'd rather have a rookery's," Sam muttered. The decks lurched. "Forward," the lookout cried. "Sails off port quarter." All eyes snapped round. Through veils of sleet loomed two lean silhouettes. Longships, oars already biting foam. Their prows were carved into curling kraken arms, gilt washed dull by storm, but unmistakable in intent. Battle stations. John barked. Sail hands sprang to reef canvas. Archers slung quivers and knocked shafts, point down into waiting tubs of pitch, though each flame threatened to gutter in the spitting rain. Gendry and two smiths cranked the ballista into notch. The spears tip a four-barbed shard of black glass that shimmered violet when lightning forked overhead. The longships split like raptors, circling a fat sheep. One angled windward, seeking to cross Ion's bowline. The other fell leeward, intending to rake the stern with volleys of quarrels. John strode aft, Longclaw bare, its Valyrian sheen dulled by woven tarcloth. "Steer for the lee ship," he shouted to the helmsman. "We gut her before her twin can close." The Icy Lion heeled starboard, timbers groaning. Spray exploded across the foredeck as the ram smashed through the first crest, closing distance. A chorus of ironborn war cries, harsh guttural chanting, rolled over the water. Reavers stood along the dragon-headed rail, shields raised, axes glinting red with torch glow. "Loose!" John roared. Ballista twanged. The Dragonglass bolt screamed through rain, punching the kraken prow just below the waterline. There came a splintering crack like ice in spring thaw. Black glass dust clouded the air as the bolt erupted through oak, leaving a fist-wide hole. Water gushed in. The longship lurched as oars flailed. Before her crew could regain rhythm, Icy Iron rammed broadside. The Dragonglass wedge on her bow gouged the reaver hull from rail to keel. Boards buckled outward. Ironborn tumbled. Gendry's men heaved grappling hooks, cinching the ships together by misery's embrace. John vaulted the gap, boots thudding onto slick planks. 5 reavers closed in a rustle of chain. He pivoted, parried an axe swing that clanged against his vambrace, then kicked the wielder into the churning sea. Ghost was not there to flank him, but habit guided his left shoulder through gaps between foes. Longclaw flicked like winter lightning, severing tendon, splitting helm, carving a crimson arc that vanished in rain wash. Behind, Mage Galley Bears Rothidy pulled alongside the windward longship, disgorging shield maidens in roaring fury. The second enemy vessel attempted retreat, but a crosswind snapped its rudder cable. Manderly ballista fire impaled the stern. Salted waves rushed in. Minutes later, the first longship rolled, her deck awash. John slashed grapnel lines, shoving survivors towards oarlocks where they clung, begging quarter. "Cast them a skiff," he ordered, voice hoarse. "Let them row south and carry word. The north answers kraken raids with storm and stone." Mage appeared beside him, beard braids soaked dark. "Mercy for reavers?" She growled. "Mercy buys silence's coin," John replied. "Their admiral will second-guess next landing." She grunted assent. "Bear Island sails for Cape Kraken in your wake. Don't keep us waiting." Island. 2 mornings later, the storm broke, and dawn rose hard and clear. Cape Kraken's slate-gray cliffs cut the horizon like a saw-toothed blade. Tide hissed through rock teeth. Gulls wheeled over narrow coves, choked with seaweed. Shiver winds carried the stench of smoke. Widow's Watch, still smoldering beyond the headland. John disembarked with 100 watch and Mormont Marines, boots crunching shingle. Brienne's trail of hoofmarks showed where her column had pursued the Ironborn inland, but time pressed. Captives risked sacrifice to the drowned god if not already drowned. Val guided scouts along a goat track that spiraled up the cliffs. They crested the rim onto heathland tufted with purple heather. There, half-collapsed wattle huts scarred the slope. Fishing cots punched through with axes, nets smoldering in ash. John found a blood-soaked rag bearing the sigil of House Hornwood. He closed it in a fist. Every mile north left deeper scars on his people. Brienne's messenger arrived at dusk, horse-lathered, bearer pale. "Lady Brienne holds the Ironborn at Rathfield Ford," he rasped, "but they drag prisoners as human shield. She cannot press without risking arrow fire into her own." His eyes fell on John's black armor, shimmering with the first stars. Hope flickered. She begs relief. John called counsel beneath a wind-stunted pine. Mapstones arrayed on sailcloth. Rathfield River snaked east to the sea. Ford narrow but swift. Ironbourne encampment occupied the south bank. North bank cliff-walled. Brienne held north approach, yet lacked archers to outrange Ironbourne crossbows. "We strike from behind," Gendry proposed, tracing a valley west. "This gully bypasses their scouts, but cliffs sheer at ford. Not passable for heavy. Foot can climb," Val countered. "Shadowrunners scale ice sheer as glass." John studied terrain. Night drew near. Firelight in enemy camp would silhouette reavers. Perfect cover for midnight descent. "We split. Mage attacks north bank at dawn. Feints frontal. My unit repels cliffs under dark freeze captives. Opens ford from within." Sam frowned. "A dozen against 200? "A dozen ghosts," John said. He tightened the leather ties of his gauntlet. "Dragonglass makes each blow decisive." And moonless dark cloaked the gorge. John's strike team, 20, not 12. Gendry refused to stay behind. Eased down hemp lines nodded to dwarf pine roots. Rain earlier left rock slick. But Val set pitons swift, rope murmuring underweight. Far below, river hissed. Gray-white foam glimpsed when sparks of enemy cookfire glinted off water. Halfway, a stone skittered. John froze, breath held. In the camp, a lookout sat perched on a half-sunken longship hull repurposed as palisade. He peered into gloom, torch raised. John pressed against rock face, dragonglass shards at his shoulder shimmering faint. Lightning far out to sea briefly illuminated the cliff. Watchers' eyes swept past without pause. They reached a shale ledge above the camp. From here John saw captive cages, stout willow branches bound with iron rings, children huddled, a dozen women, 3 wounded soldiers. Reavers lounged by driftwood bonfire, swilling ale from hollowed horns, voices carrying in drunken sea chant. "Dot," John signaled. 2 archers lined arrows of glass. On release, fletchless shafts whisper hissed, punching firelight-tinted holes through throats of nearest guards. The men toppled without cry. John dropped next to the first cage, slicing iron ring with dragonglass saw. "Got a warmy way." Eyes widened. Recognition in the gaunt face of Lady Sybil Glover. She squeezed John's forearm. "Bolton scum promised us to Kraken tide," she rasped, voice cracked. They march east dawn. Gendry pried cage door. Captives crawled free. Meanwhile, a reaver stumbled upon fallen comrades. Shouted alarm. Hornblast brayed. John drew Longclaw. The camp erupted. Reavers surged, axes flashing red. John met the first with a diagonal cut that split collarbone to sternum. He pivoted, parried another, elbowed aside a spear thrust. Let Gendry's hammer cave the man's chest. Val rolled across embers, slitting hamstrings. Screams mingled with drumbeat of hooves as mage bearskins descended the north bank, war cries echoing canyon. Suddenly, a roar louder than thunder. The sea lion in the estuary loosed ballista. A dragonglass bolt arced overhead, impaling the palisade log, then exploding into shards that lacerated reavers in a glittering cloud. Men fell clutching faces as obsidian needles carved eyes. Panic broke ranks. John pressed, booting a captain into the bonfire. Flame flared, consumed oil-soaked beard. He pivoted to find the last cage still locked. Inside, a Karstark boy no more than 10 gripping rusted dagger. Eyes feral. Key lost, chain thick. John swung Longclaw. Sheared the pin. Door fell. Boy staggered out, tears mixing with soot. John lifted him onto hip. "You're safe," he said. Voice steady, though blood ticked down his jaw from a scrape. The boy clung silent. Behind, The ford churned red, but battle waned. Reavers fled south path only to crash into Mormont shields. Those who dropped weapons were bound. Those who fought were felled. Smoke coiled skyward. Dawn's first scarlet painted it a bruise. At sunrise, Brienne marched across captured ford. Helm tucked under arm. Smile weary yet luminous. You delivered them, she said, dancing at freed captives swaddled in bear furs. 8 cost. Jon rolled stiff shoulder. Dragonglass plates at bicep cracked spiderweb fine, but held. 1 arrow graze, 2 bruised ribs. Others fared worse. He nodded toward Meg's tents where healers stitched a gash across Jorah's scalp. But they live. Brienne exhaled. Then this field is won. She surveyed smoking longships scuttled along shore. What of the Bolton loyalists? Routed for now. Jon's glance hardened. But Ramsay's whelps breed hate deeper than roots. We must go home. Brienne's brow furrowed. Sansa will need us at last hearth. Jon looked north where clouds banked like walls. Winter's teeth may bite yet again. And now, the march inland blurred into cycle of rescue and repair. Widows watch ruins cleared for refugee housing. Ironborn prisoners set to rebuild wharfs that burned. Jon left a garrison of 100, commanded by Lady Glover, whose voice carried authority sharper than her husband's blade. She kissed his cheek, whispered, "The North owes you more than fealty. We owe you belonging." Riding inland, Jon's column threaded pine glades silvered by morning frost. Scouts reported Karstark banners near Last River. The flayed man badge of fringe Bolton men intertwined with Karstark sunburst. Grotesque alliance forged in desperation. Sansa's host camped opposite banks, outnumbered nearly 2 to 1. Time grew thin. Snow began to fall, fat wet flakes that clung to mail. Jon remembered blizzards at Hardhome, white silent under moonlight. The weight of that memory pressed him onward. He pushed horses hard. By dusk, third day, Last Hearth's wooden palisade rose before them like a crown of blackened teeth. Fires burned along both encampments. Jon approached Sansa's command tent, striped wool beneath the boughs of an ancient oak. Inside, Sansa, cloak dusted with snow, bent over war table. At her flank stood Alys Karstark, eyes red-rimmed, and Lord Serwyn gripping a rolled white flag. Sansa straightened, relief washing across features that hardened quickly to resolve. "Brother," she greeted, "you bring dawn in your shadow." Jon clasped her gloved hands. "And you hold storm at bay." He surveyed room. Only minimal guards, tension thick. "Parley," Sansa nodded. "Alys's cousin, the pretender Torrhen Karstark, demands Winterfell's fealty restored to line. He claims unbroken by treason. He marches with 300 Bolton Sellaxes. They hold the bridge at Weeping Willow. At sunrise he will call unstained blood to arm." Jon arched brow. "Meaning your head and mine." Ellie spoke, voice tight. "My cousin forgets House Karstark bent knee to Stannis, then to Ramsay Snow. He thinks memory as short as daylight." Jon studied the carved miniature bridge on map. Steep banks, icy torrent. Bolton axes on bridge, Karstark spears behind. If we storm, we bleed. He fingered a dragonglass shard from thigh plate. If we shadow run under river? Sam, newly arrived, shook head. Current swift, water near freezing. Even free folk sealskin cannot cross unseen. Brienne cleared throat. A duel of champions may end standoff. Sansa's lips pressed thin. Karstark offered none. He enjoys spectacle. Jon exhaled. Then we give him spectacle he fears. He paced. At dawn we approach with small escort. Crow wolf clad in dragonglass equals myth. I challenge Torrhen. Single combat. He'll accept to keep men's loyalty. During duel our archers take positions. If Boltons betray truce, Mormont reserves flank. Sansa's eyes flashed worry. You risk blade wrought by Karstark smiths. And Bolton arrows? Risk buys peace, Jon answered softly. And you hold arrow of your own. He nodded to Sam, who produced sealed scrolls bearing crown sigil. Tyrion's letters confirm King's Landing condemns Bolton loyalists as oathbreakers. With Roaring the Black Seal, we proclaim them traitor. Any who continue fight, do so without crown reprieve. Sansa Red Seal, resolve. Very well, but you will not stand alone. Dawn's pale gold leaked over frost-rimmed meadow, as both armies formed ranks along the riverbanks. Karstark forces sported tattered sunbursts. Bolton men wore half-sewn flayed men banners. Torrhen Karstark rode to Bridge Center. Tall, lean man in black lacquered plate, helm crowned with antler-like spikes, each tip dipped crimson. He raised two-handed greatsword, the crossguard shaped as sun rays. Jon rode forward on a gray palfrey, no pennant, just the glint of dragonglass armor beneath plain cloak. Snow still fell lightly, dancing in rays of newborn sun. Torrhen sneered. Bastard wolf clad in black glass. Crawl back to your kennel, pup. This river flows with stark blood today. Jon dismounted, letting cloak drop. D. Armor caught sunlight. Sparking amethyst. Murmurs rippled through enemy ranks. Some stepped back, blessing themselves. Jon drew Longclaw, the wolf pommel gleaming. I am no king, Jon said, voice carrying in crisp air. No crown, no kennel, only a brother sworn to protect living. He pointed blade. Name your terms. Torrhen spat. Single combat. First blood enough for some? They cry mercy. I cry death. Winner claims last hearth and fealty of defeated. Agreed, Jon replied. He saluted. Where crowd parted, Tormund stood ready with 24 Mormont archers. Bows lowered, but strings taut. Across, Bolton crossbowmen rustled. Drums ceased. Silence vast. Jon and Torrhen circled on frost-slick planks. Torrhen lunged, greatsword whooshing. Jon sidestepped, blade sliding across Longclaw in shower of sparks. Second swing crashed down. Jon raised Dragonglass reinforced pauldron. Deflecting blow. Cracks spidered but plate held. He riposted, tip slicing Torrhen's vambrace. First blood welled. Roar from Stark bank. Hiss from Bolton side. Torrhen bellowed. Beinted overhead then spun low. Jon anticipated. Blocked knee strike. Answered with elbow to helm that rang bronze. Torrhen staggered. Jon slashed. Shallow cut across thigh. Blood spattered planks. Bolton crossbowmen, on far rail twitched. Raising quarrel. Gendry's cry. Loose. Mormont archers loosed first. Obsidian shafts slammed through bowman's chest, pinning him to rail before bolt released. Battle on brink. Tension strummed. Torrhen. Seeing bolt kill. Snarled and charged feral, abandoning stance. Jon ducked, pivoted, drove pommel into Torrhen's jaw, then reversed grip. Longclaw kissing exposed throat beneath beaten gorget. Torrhen froze, eyes wide. Yield, Jon said. Torrhen's gaze flicked to his line. Some Karstark spears lowered, uncertain. Others looked away. Pride warred with fear. He spat blood but knees buckled. Yield. A sigh rippled. Jon lowered blade, nodded to archers. Tormund roared triumph but kept bow knocked. Sansa rode onto bridge bearing royal decree. By order of King Bran, Bolton loyalists stand traitor. Lay down arms, you may depart south free. Raise them and Dragonglass awaits. Many Boltons tossed axes into river. Karstark men knelt beside cousins. The standoff melted like snow under early sun. Jon removed Torrhen's helm, pressed cloth to split lip. I want Karstark born to heal this land, not scour it. Torrhen, trembling, managed nod. Healing would take seasons, but seeds were sown. Weeks of mending followed, erecting new watchposts along Weeping Willow, redistributing Manderley grain to Karstark villages, commissioning Gendry's forges to craft plowshares alongside spearheads. Sansa presided over joint courts, where Bolton orphans were offered wardship under neutral houses. In evenings, Jon walked battlements of Last Hearth. Ghost returned at his side, white specter in moonlight, silent as regret. One night, Sam found him gazing north to Aurora, shimmering green curtains above horizon. "Letters from Old Town," Sam said, extending scroll. "The Citadel confirms your lamellar treatise. Archmaesters called Dragonglass working Snow's Forge. They request envoy." Jon shook head, half smiling. "Let maesters debate. We have walls to repair." Sam persisted. "Knowledge spreads, Jon. Already Dornish traders bring obsidian ores. If others learn forging, daylight widens. Then?" Jon traced glyph ink with thumb. "When dawn spreads too fast, shadows deepen." Sam's eyes reflected Aurora. "Then we teach them to carry dawn and night alike." And now, spring matured into brief northern summer. Snowmelt swelling rivers, wildflowers painting foothills, hunts of elk and aurochs rounding storehouses. The pact's banners, black direwolf and star, flew from Nightfort to Maidenpool. Peace, though fragile, echoed in laughter of children chasing kites made from stitched sailcloth. Yet far beyond, rumors traveled on merchant tongues. Karth alchemists seeking to marry obsidian with wildfire. Remnants of Golden Company regrouping in Basilisk Isles. Whispers that Queen Shirian's court on Dragonstone tinkered with cinder worm eggs. Jon weighed each tale like a smith weighs ore, tested for true metal. On the wall of Castle Black, he met Ed Tollett at sunset. Wind keened, but no longer lonely. Many watchfires burned. Ed nodded to the horizon where purple dark met white ice. "Whatever comes from out there next," he said, "it won't find us sleeping." Jon looked upon Dragonglass plugs sealing fissures. New ramparts glowed violet in torchfire. Brothers drilled below. Crossbows tipped obsidian. Free folk children ran messages. Wildling grandmothers cooked stew for both races. The wall lived again, not as prison but as spine. "Night no longer frightens me," Jon said softly. "It reminds me we're alive." He laid hand on parapet stone. "And we guard more than kingdoms. We guard possibility." Ed snorted. "Spare me your poet's heart. Just make sure the latrines get emptied regular." "Oh." Jon laughed. Rare sound carried by wind. Below, Ghost lifted muzzle, scenting dawn hidden beyond world's curve. The wolf's eyes, ember gold, mirrored Jon's hope. Hope tempered in dragonglass, unbroken by storm or steel, unafraid of shadow's hush. Somewhere, Southron monarchs argued taxes. Distant warlords forged plots in candlestick. But along this frost-crowned edge of the world, a brotherhood watched stars wheel and breathe the same cold air in unison. And she. Late summer's dusk saw Jon return to Winterfell for harvest moot. Courtyard brimmed with sacks of barley, wheels of goat cheese, barrels of salted cod. Sansa greeted him atop the battlements, wearing wolf-head torque of black iron. The castle smelled of fresh-cut cedar and bread ovens. Sense of rebirth. That night feast tables, end to end. Wildling goat herds toasted with Manderley merchants. Karstark youth danced with Hornwood maidens. Maesters compared ink recipes with free folk carvers, etching dragonglass talismans. Jon watched from high seat, not of lordship, but of stewardship. Long claw sheathed at his side, armor set aside for a simple wool tunic. Sansa raised a horn. To the pact, born of necessity, grown in kinship. Roars shook timber roof, tankards clanged. Music rose, northern flute, free folk drum. Children darted among benches chasing fireflies. The wolf arch of the hall's rafters glowed amber in torchlight. For a heartbeat Jon felt weight lift. No looming battle, no whisper of doom, only the hum of belonging. Then a raven tapped at shutter behind high seat. Jon opened to find black feathers ruffled by long flight. Talons clutching a scroll sealed with dark wax, stamped by wave-horse sigil of the Valeman. He broke seal. Words stark. Storm crows sighted off Sisterton. Warships unknown, black sails with crimson sunburst. They fly no crown. They test our waters. And in chow. John folded parchment, gaze drifting to Hall of Laughter, unaware of new tide. He breathed deep. Battle after harvest, perhaps. Peace, even momentary, is yet a victory. He tucked scroll beneath belt, returned to table, raised horn beside Sansa. Tonight and dawn both. He toast echoed, voice clear. Hall answered. Laughter swelled, banners fluttered. Outside, aurora shimmered again. Green and violet caressing dusk. Somewhere beyond the wall, cold winds gathered. But inside Winterfell walls hearts beat warm. And Jon Snow, forged of dragonglass and dawn, prepared quietly for the next shadow, knowing his people would stand with him, a tapestry of wolf, crow, bear, trout, spearwife, maester, smith and child, each thread woven through trial, bound by oath spoken beneath unblinking red leaves. You guard the living, wherever they walk, under any sky. And Devani. The story, like the night, would go on. PGSQL. A hush softened the feast hall once the last toast faded, like a candle snuffed beneath cupped palms. Laughter dwindled into murmurs, then into the slow scrape of benches as folk excused themselves for a night's rest. When the doors finally closed behind the stragglers, the long chamber was left to crackling hearths, guttering torches, and the two Starks whose silhouettes watched each other across the cooling coals. Jon felt the embers heat against his shins, familiar, grounding, and he let it tangle with the thrum of Raven-born news still folded inside his belt. Sansa set aside her horn. Bad tidings? He unfurled the missive, letting wax crumbs tumble to the table. Unknown banners off the sisters. Black sails, crimson sunburst. Her frown furrowed deeper than lines of parchment. Not House Dane. Their sigil bears a white sword on violet. Crimson sunburst. The old banner of Brightfire sell sails out of Mere. Except Brightfire died on the stepstones 2 years past. Jon traced the inked sketch of sail and starburst, mind spinning through possibilities. Might be reavers who bought the colors, or a sponsor wealthy enough to resurrect broken names. Sansa's gaze flicked to the doors, as though the hall itself might sprout spies. Has Tyrion warned the small council? Not yet. The raven came from Sisterton Portmaster to the Vale. The Eyrie forwarded it with speed. If these sell sails test the bite, White Harbor sits in their eye. Sansa pressed fingers to temples. We've just sealed last hearth. The north bleeds from many pricks. Every fresh cut risks fever. She looked up. Will you sail again? Jon considered the lay of coastline, the weariness in his bones, the stack of repair ledgers still awaiting his mark. Not yet. We need full nets for winter. I'll send Manderley squadrons to shadow them, but we won't chase ghosts while fields want harvest. Now. Practical. She rose, tugging her cloak straight. Let the unknown show its teeth first, and we gather ours. He folded the scroll, slipping it beneath Dragonglass pauldron strap. Rest now. Dawn sees the barns counted. She lingered, expression half shadow. You believe this peace will hold, brother? A simple question weighted with years. Jon looked to the heart of the hall, where the fire glowed low, the carved direwolves on either side of the hearth glistening in half-light. Peace is a guest, welcomed warmly yet never chained. We treat her with courtesy, and perhaps she stays the night. Sansa's smile was sad but proud. Then let us be gracious hosts. She withdrew through the servants' door, skirts whispering along rushes. Jon watched embers collapse into ash, then headed for the yard. And thou, or crisp night air met him outside, carrying the mingled scents of horse lather, pine pitch, and fresh-cut straw. The moons, one fat and waxy, the other a silver sliver, rode high above Winterfell's towers. Ghost paced the rampart like a ghost indeed, pale fur glowing milky beneath moonshine. When the direwolf saw him, it trotted down the wooden stair, pushing a cold nose into Jon's palm. Quiet boy, Jon whispered, stroking the ruff. Long days ahead. Footsteps approached. Maester Walken, parchment bundle under arm, gave a stiff bow. "Lord Snow." "John," he corrected. "What keeps you from bed at this hour?" Walken's breath plumed. A courier from Queen Shireen arrived while the feast rang loud. He brought 2 glass candles in a locked chest, along with writings from the alchemist Bellicho of Volantis. "The Queen requests a northern test of these." Walken cleared his throat. "Cinder roverworm eggs." John stiffened. "True dragon spawn." "So the scroll claims, though shaped of stone and alchemical resin. They require heat of black as smoke coal, not fire." He shuffled parchment. "A demonstration is planned on Dragonstone at first frost. The Queen solicits your presence." John exhaled fog. More miracles, more chaos. He gazed past the stables at rising curtain wall. "We cannot chase every shiny arrow of hope. Tell the courier we thank her grace, but our seat remains here until winter stores are safe." "As you say, my John." Walken bowed again. Scurrying off. Ghost whined low. John ruffled ears. "I know," he murmured. "But each new power invites a war." From the godswood came faint notes of harp, maybe a sleepless bard practicing for tomorrow's market fair. John listened, soothed by its melancholy. Then he went inside to rest. And now, 6 days later, when barley wagon tallies were penned and salting sheds brimming, John rose before dawn and rode south to inspect the next watchtowers. Squires bundled spears in oiled linen. Gendry tinkered at his side, adjusting straps on a prototype Dragonglass buckler, the size of a large kite shield. Sansa urged him travel swift, return swifter. They crossed into Barrowlands under cool rain. The sky bruised with oncoming autumn. Leaves browned early, foretelling a sharp winter. Ghost hunted hares along the verge, returning with muzzle red. At Greywater Ford, Howland Reed's crowningmen emerged from mist to exchange news. Marsh ghouls walked again at twilight. Pale figures glimpsed across fen, silent save for a wet sucking noise. John tasked 2 range companies to investigate. Any revenant would find the north vigilant. On the second night, as campfires flickered between standing stones older than kingdoms, John drifted into uneasy dreams. He walked a beach of black obsidian sand, beneath a sky swirling crimson and emerald. Heart trees grew from sea foam, their faces weeping molten glass. Ravens perched yet bore no feathers, only shards of night reflecting his own face, fractured into countless selves. Then the sea split, and a shape vast as mountains rose, scaled, winged, eyes the color of ghosts, but empty. It opened its maw, and from within came not flame but silence so deafening that John woke gasping, fingers clenching Longclaw. Gendry loomed nearby. "Bad night?" John wiped sweat from neck. "Dreams of shards and silence." "Forged dreams," Gendry guessed. "Steel remembers the hammer. Glass remembers the furnace." John almost smiled. "And men remember what they fear." Gendry nodded toward the eastern horizon, where the first glow teased. "We ride." Now. Moat Caelan's watchtowers greeted them with banners of new design. Wolf and Star quartered with Fleur de Mire of Barrowfield. The repaired slate indeed glistened, arrow slits trimmed with mortar laced in fine obsidian powder. But the guard captain met them with troubled eyes. "Scouts returned from the sisters," the captain said, shuffling parchments. "They claim the Black Sunburst fleet anchored off Long Sister, erecting shore forges powered by wind and slave winches. Villagers speak of brazen hulls plated in copper. Free cities coin." "Ma'am." John felt the drum of prophecy within ribs. "Any banner of commander." "A red iron gauntlet clutching scales," replied the captain. "Unknown heraldry, but their envoys preach the law of balance, an eye for an eye, debt for debt. They call themselves the Ivory Hand." John closed eyes a beat. "Sellsword zealots." Gendry spat. "Balance ends where their purse begins." John turned. "Marshal the Marsh, flotilla, time die." 10 shallow draft skiffs armed with glass-tipped scorpions. We sail for White Harbor this hour. Nenner. What of the watchtowers, Lord Snow? Asked the captain. Send word to Sansa. Hold provisions, ready refugees. No panic before truth. And the flotilla cut the bog rivers, skimming ribbons of silver water between reed walls, buzzing with dragonflies. On the Mirishmade River Scorpion, Sam hunched over ciphered messages from the south. Whispers that the High Septon condemned Dragonglass forging as unholy. Ziga preachers in Old Town now spun tales of night-born demigods corrupting men's souls. Jon felt politics net tighten, each dispatch a knot. By evening they reached the White Knife estuary. There, smoke stained the horizon, a dozen slender plumes smearing sunset. When they reached harbor mouth, sight chilled blood. The ISE Lion listing at anchor, sails shredded, rams snapped, beach littered with debris and bodies. Manderley crews scrambled to salvage, mournful horns wailed. Lord Wyman, thin from toil yet still formidable, met them on the quay. They struck at moonrise day past, he said hoarsely. Iron shells quick as wasps. Glass ram pierced my flagship, but their copper plating shrugged our bolts. His voice cracked. They carried off 3 merchant brigs, and the Queen's crate of candles. Sam's face paled. If they master glass candles, they'll spy every hull. Jon looked at Rex. Copper plates. Cheaper than steel yet weighty, unless alloyed. Marish cunning. He thought of the dream. The silent dragon. Void inside. A harbinger. We hunt them, Jon said. But not with ships they expect. And 3 days, Jon oversaw fevered work in shipyards. Gendry's smiths riveted curved plates of cast dragonglass onto slender Nar frames. Mariners balked. Glass in hull. But Gendry argued friction low, weight less than oak. Jon insisted on sails dyed dusk purple to vanish against starlit sea. 10 keels took shape, christened with names of lost direwolves. Grey Wind, Lady Summer, Nymeria, Shagadog, plus 4 unnamed for fallen brothers of the watch. Meanwhile Sam interrogated refugees from Long Sister. They spoke of masked priests in bone-white robes, preaching absolution through balance. Justice weighed in blood. Iron discipline kept the soldiers silent. Mutiny ended with tongues removed. A single name whispered. Silas the Counter. A Myrish banker turned zealot, rumor claimed. Jon summoned council in White Harbor's lighthouse, lantern fire hallowing the room. Meg Mormont arrived from Bear Island with 2 galleys patched but ready. Brienne rode cross-country, still stiff from last hearth duel. Sansa remained north to maintain order, dispatching letters of encouragement and grain. Jon traced maps. Ivory hand hunts resources, Westerosi grain, Dragonglass secrets. They sail copper barges heavy yet armored. Our glass-skin Nars run faster. We strike at night, slip between hull and harbor. Lord Wyman's nephew Wallace raised brow. 10 Nars against 15 barges? Their oars dwarf ours. We strike the head, Jon said. Silas commands from flagship, rumored Iron Gauntlet figurehead. Remove him, zealots crumble. He looked to Gendry. Can scorpion bolts punch copper at waterline? If heated red, Gendry answered. Knock arrowheads of glass. Tip them in whale oil. Fire while still glowing. Copper softens, bolt penetrates. Whale oil scarce, Wyman warned. Use seal fat, Mage grunted. Burns foul, but hot. Jon turned to Sam. Can we cloak approach? Sam rubbed chin. A reef lies north of Long Sister, Briar Teeth. At low tide breakers hide under foam. Our Nars can thread those shallows. The barges cannot. We attack from seaward side. Plans laid, crews sworn. Ravens flew to Sansa. Hold, hope. The wolf takes to sea once more. Night of departure. A crescent moon hung, thin as a smile beneath veiled stars. Gale subdued, leaving sea calm glassy. Perfect. John stood on Grey Wind's low deck, Dragonglass scale mail beneath oilskin. Ghost, left with Sansa, howled. John imagined it echoing across distance, weaving into his heart. He touched Longclaw, whispered old vows. Nars glided, sails reefed, rowers silent, save hiss of oars. They rounded briar teeth, jagged stone points loomed inches below hulls. One scrape could gut them. But Sam's chart's true. They passed unscathed. Ahead, Long Sister's Cove shimmered dull red in scattered forge fires. Copper-plated barges rode anchor, chain lanterns strung like constellations. At harbor mouth rose flagship, a three-masted monster. Prow a clenched gauntlet cradling a sunburst. John raised fist. Glass scorpion bolts plucked from braziers, tips glowing ember orange. Archers drew. A hush of history held breath. Loose. 10 bolts streaked like meteors. First smashed lantern on flagship's poop. Showering molten oil that splashed deck. Second punched copper waterline, steam geysered. Third struck mast chain, cinder shower dancing. Alarms erupted, gongs rang. Ivory-clad soldiers scrambled. Yet confusion reigned. Attack had come from seaside. Reefs impossible for large craft. Barges attempted to swing catapults, but arcs too narrow. Grey Wind surfed a slick swell, closing amid arrow storm. A flight of bronze-fletched shafts rattled Joan's breastplate, one shattering on glass scale. He leapt aboard flagship with Gendry and 6 knight brothers. Deck roared with battle. John parried hookblade, reversed with cut to hamstring. Gendry's hammer pulped helm. Through chaos, a tall figure in white lacquer stood calmly. Mask of ivory carved like expressionless coin. In gauntleted hand he held a ledger. Silas thought. John pressed, cutting path. Silas watched as though noting columns. Debts. Debts, he murmured. Voice muffled. Balance sought. Balance found, John answered, thrusting. Silas flicked ledger. Hidden blade shot from spine, deflecting Longclaw. He countered, all precision, like banker balancing books. John finted left, pivoted, hammered pommel into mask. Ivory cracked. Silas staggered. Cellar dark eyes revealed. Westeros owes blood, Silas hissed. South's gold buys your grain, yet you hoard power. We share grain, John growled. But we will not share chains. He drove shoulder, pinned Silas to mast. Longclaw slid under rib, heartward. Silas shuddered. Ledger fell, pages fluttering. With captain fallen, reavers faltered. Meg's galleys rammed outer barges. Copper plates buckled under heated bolts. Fires leapt crimson. Screams blended with roaring surf. John cut anchor chains. Flagship drifted, rudder free. Mariners leapt to Nars. They rode clear as flames licked rigging. Copper hull glowed, groaned, folded in on itself, sinking with a belch of steam. The sea hissed, swallowing zealotry. Dawn found only charred flotsam bobbing amid gull cries. White harbor banners reclaimed harbor. Sisterton fishers rode out to salvage. Captured reavers sat bound, wide-eyed. John stood on quay hours later, armor streaked with soot. Silas' cracked mask lay in palm. He considered its blank stare, then tossed it to tide. Some debts closed, others opened. A fortnight of repair and healing passed. Sam pored over seized ledgers, discovering columns of donors. Free city banks, unnamed lords from Westeros' southern coast. Even a Tyroshi archon. Names coded, but grain shipments cross-referenced. Intrigue deepened. War financed not by greed alone but by fear of northern unity. We can't fight every purse. Sam confessed under lantern glow. We don't, John said. We show their coins by nothing but coals. Yet worry gnawed. Silas' last words echoed. South's gold buys grain. True. With crown coffers strained, reach lords paid premium for wheat. Could the pact feed itself and the realm without bartering peace for coin? He sent ravens across neck. Instruct each holdfast to plant winter rye. Free folk taught mound-day seeding of frost oats. He wrote Sansa. Harvest first, profit second. Let the South see the North shares bread freely. Fear dies where children eat. And now. Sansa's reply came swift. Hand suspicion rises where gifts bear no price. Yet we proceed. Enderal. And as autumn's breath chilled land. Trees bled gold. Wind smelled of smoke and apple rot. Jon led inspection of coastal defenses. At Widow's Watch, newly raised stone tower, bore dragonglass inlay depicting direwolf embracing star. Artisans preserved mortar secrets. Each fleck of glass captured sunlight, reflecting to sea, lighthouse and warning both. In Last River, Brienne supervised training of mixed units. Karstark, Bolton convert, free folk spearwives. She drilled them in shield knot, a formation locked by dragonglass bosses. Jon watched sparring. Precision slowly replaced mistrust. Ice within hearts melted. Yet tidings arrived from Old Town. Archmaesters had voted to recall any maester who aided dragonglass forging, deeming it unsanctioned sorcery. Walken faced formal censure. Jon met him outside the rookery. "You are free to return," he offered. Walken straightened, stooped back. "I will not abandon my post. Knowledge shields as much as plate." Tears glimmered behind spectacles. "If they strike my chain from the rolls, so be it." "They won't," Jon said. "Not if realm stands witness." He penned letters. To King's Landing, to Dragonstone, to Vale. Tyrion replied with sardonic flourish. "If the Citadel denies knowledge that saves lives, perhaps it is time we open a rival." Queen Shirayan promised a library grant. Jon smiled at image of new lorehouses, sprouting like saplings. Enderal. Winter's first snow dusted the pass as Jon returned to Winterfell. Sansa greeted him with ledger of grain distribution. Shrines of the faith feeding poor in King's Landing on northern barley. Rumors of monstrous northerners waned. Peace's guest lingered. As nights lengthened, Jon found himself at Forge often, watching gentry test composite plates. Dragonglass layered with thin hammered bronze to flex without fracture. One night sparks burst like constellations. Gendry laughed. "Starshield," he named it. Jon traced the gleaming seam. "Could coat castle gates. Or helmets," Gendry said, imagining. They drafted sketches by firelight, Sam snoring under fur in corner. But shadows persisted. One eve, a hooded woman arrived at Winterfell gate, bearing an oiled satchel. She called herself Mirai of Ashai, eyes dark as midnight tide. She sought audience with the Crow Wolf. In Sansa's chamber, she unclasped satchel, revealing a single obsidian shard long as a man's forearm. It pulsed, faint violet. "Bloodglass," she whispered. "Veins forged by dragon heart, cooled in sorcerer's breath. It sings to the heartbeat of the world." Jon touched it, buzz like wasp inside bone. "Why bring this?" "Because deeper ice stirs," she said. The Night King was but warden for something older. In the far north, a glacier cracked this moon. From it rose winds that hush sound, kill flame. I saw it in candle's fire. Your dragonglass may fail against such breath. Bloodglass may hold. "Ma'am?" Sam stammered. "Natural or conjured?" Mirai's smile revealed small stained teeth. "Old as sin. You must come beyond the frostfangs." The room chilled with her words. Sansa's gaze hardened, memories of near apocalypse resurfacing. She spoke. "The North still mends scars. We cannot chase phantoms." Mirai bowed. "Then doom rides slow, but rides." She left, refusing coin. Jon lay awake that night, bloodglass shard on table, its glow faint but persistent. He remembered Dream Dragon of Silence. Maybe a warning. And no. Snow months rolled. The Pact's roads pulsed with life. traders of tar and cod, scholars seeking Dragonglass lore. Ivory hand remnants fled east. Rumor placed them in Bravos petitioning Iron Bank. King's Landing reopened northern embassies. Tyrion glimpsed opportunity. Joint glass foundries on Massey's Hook. John weighed but postponed. Then howl of ravens one bleak dawn. Wildling scouts sighted unnatural storm forging north of the shivering sea, lightning silent, clouds rotating like mill wheel, swallowing stars. On its edge, fires died without smoke. John stood on wall parapet as Edie recited. Wind bit. Frost whitened mustache. Could be only blizzard, Eddie dentured. Yet his voice lacked conviction. John remembered Mirai's tale. Fear stirred, but not despair. He touched bloodglass shard sheathed to belt. If winter tests, we answer. Messenger ravens flew to every holdfast. Stock food. Send rangers to track storm's march. Sansa summoned war council. Brienne drilled watchmen in starshield technique. Pact. Gendry coated first gate panel in starshield skin. Its sheen rippled like dusk. Days later, glimpses from Far Eye confirmed. Storm crept south slow but relentless, horizon glowing sickly green at its core. Trees within path frosted black. Animals fled. On a height above Frostfang Pass, John convened leaders. Tormund, Val, Alice Karstark, Lady Dustin, Sir Edmure, Maege Mormont, Brienne, Sam. He laid maps across sled plank weighted by stones. We do not know what walks within that storm, he said. Wind whipping cloak, only that flame fails. Dragonglass may fail. But lives depend on our wall. Gendry unsheathed a test dagger of bloodglass. Edge gleamed dark red. We arm Vanguard with this. Sam added. The storm muffles sound. Horns may not carry. Post signal fires of whale oil, they burn blue. Plans seeded like sparks in tinder. Runners fanned out. Mines on Dragonstone ramped output of raw glass. Forges burned day and night. Starshield gates sealed Castle Black. Watchers kept 2-hour shifts. Then the storm arrived at the edge of Frostfangs. A colossal wall of opaque ice dust, swirling so densely stars vanished behind. Silence swallowed clang of forges. Even ghosts' howl died a pace from jaws. John, in full starshield plate, stood before the gate atop a fresh sculpted berm. Beside him Val held bloodglass spear. Brienne, starshield tower shield. Sam, book-strapped, ready to observe. The front of the storm halted a bowshot away, as though sniffing. Frost crystals drifted forward, twinkling. In them shapes formed. Tall, gaunt, faceless, crystals swirling around a hollow center. A void of heat, of light. Not white, nor other. Something older. John breathed steam. We come as guardians of living, he called, voice muffled. Pass no further. No reply, only deeper hush. Shapes glided forward. Val poised spear. John advanced a single step. Long claw bared. Bloodglass shard strapped to crossguard pulsed. Shapes paused, as though wary. John lifted sword overhead. Bloodglass glowed, then shone bright crimson. Within storm, whorls shifted, recoiling. Sam murmured astonishment. The shard resonates. John felt echo inside rib, boom like slowed heartbeat. He angled blade, pointing the shard's flare into storm. The green-sick glow at its core flickered, sputtered. Shapes wavered. Edges losing coherence, collapsing into flurry. The storm retreated a foot. Then 2 hours. Val's eyes widened. It fears the cut. John pressed another step. Brienne raised shield, reflect flare. Mormont archers loosed star-headed arrows. They struck swirling edge, detonating bursts of red light that ripped holes like torn curtains. Silence cracked, an unsound, like air inhaling. The storm recoiled further, swirling faster, then spun away along ridge, carving new path east, skirting wall rather than assaulting. Within minutes, it shrank to distant smudge. John exhaled. Knees almost buckled with relief and wonder. Bloodglass shard dimmed, returning to faint pulse. Sam scribbled. Tormund guffawed behind. Scared the wind itself, you did. John sheathed sword slowly. Not scared. Warned. He gazed after Storm. We showed new balance. They chose path easier. Brienne murmured. Storms learn? John turned. Everything learns. Wolves, men, ice. He looked at his friends. At Starshield Gate, gleaming dawn light. And so must we. There will be more storms. But we have answers they've not counted. And weeks followed. Storms roamed but skirted settled lands where blue whale oil fires burned, where bloodglass towers rose. Maesters revised treatises. The citadel, shamed, resigned censure. Queen Shireen sailed north with shipment of coal heat furnaces for glasswork. The south, seeing northern aid against silent frost, eased tariffs. Grain flowed. Peace. Longer. Deeper. One ebon dusk. John stood atop the hill of lantern-lit heart trees in Winterfell, watching children chase first snowflakes of true winter, laughter free of dread. Ghost lay at his feet, head on paws, eyes bright. Sansa joined him. Storms turned aside, crops stored. For now, we breathe. And tomorrow we learn, John said softly. She followed his gaze to horizon where aurora laced night, green threading violet. Do you ever regret refusing a crown? John shook his head. Crowns weigh heavier than storms. He touched pommel of Longclaw, bloodglass inset gleaming. But a sword can shield without ruling. He gestured to walls, to mingled banners of wolf, bear, trout, spearwife. We guard the living, each of us no matter name. Sansa tucked arm through his. Then the north is lucky to have we who remember that. Snow drifted light. From courtyard rose strains of a song. Riverland's ballad mixed with free folk rhythm. New tapestry woven of old threads. John closed eyes, let melody seep. Peace remained a guest, yes. But each kindness, each shard forged, each storm turned whispered. Maybe I'll stay a while longer. And now. And under curtain of green and violet, Jon Snow, Crowwolf, Watchy brother, Starshield warden, stood silent watch over a realm remade, ready for whatever dawn or dusk would next unfold.